In today's show, the Blazers get their best loss of the season, and Shaedon Sharpe is getting closer to return to the court. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers getting legitimately their best loss of the season. I kind of hate this time of year when fans are encouraged to root for their team to lose. That stinks, but we're there. We made it. You're supposed to cheer on the L's, and the Blazers got it a legitimately useful loss tonight against the Rockets. You were listening to Tuesday, March 26th show, and on Monday evening they got a legitimately useful loss. Shaedon Sharpe getting closer to return. We'll talk about that in the second segment. Some good news. It's been a minute since I think we've had good news. Maybe I've sprinkled in a little optimism here and there, but I think this is actually something you can look forward to without squinting too hard. We'll talk about that in the second segment. Shaedon Sharpe coming back. And then we'll do what we do. Fastest recap in the West to close the show. Is losing this time of year root for losing. It's losing season. It's also games don't matter season. There's your sad trombone from a middle school trombone. Shout out to Colbert Middle School. Go Cougars. It's just the games don't matter. But I have some thoughts on Scoot Henderon and Dalano Banton, and I'll push back against some national narratives. That's what we'll do in the third segment. First, let's talk about why this game was legitimately a good loss. There's some implications for it, large implications for it, and some interesting ones. This was first of all, the Blazers lose because they're on a mission to catch the Charlotte Hornets for the fourth worst record in the NBA. They might not get there, but the only way to get there is to lose every night. Isn't that so whack? It's just so whack that's you made it to March, you're a bad basketball team, and if your team wins, you might be sad about it. I won't cry too much about it. This is year 3 of these games not mattering, but I don't love it. But Blazers lose, that's good, but it's a double victory in this L because the Rockets are on a mission to make the play-in tournament, and they are chasing down the Warriors. The Rockets, 36-35, winners of 9 in a row, are just a half game back of the Golden State Warriors for the final play-in spot in the West. The Warriors, 36-34, losers of 2 in a row. They're 18-9 at Chase Center. They're 18-9 at home. There was a time when the Warriors, Draymond came back from suspension, they kind of got rolling a little bit, and it's they're good. They're maybe not championship good, but they're still good. They're back on the scuffle bus. They're just not a very good team. They're pretty much locked into being 9 or 10 in the West, or 11, right? If they miss it altogether. But if they make the play-in round, they're going to have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs, that doesn't really affect the Blazers draft pick. The Warriors owe the Blazers a 2024 draft pick that is top 4 protected. And if the Warriors are in the playoffs, they're not part of the lottery. But if they miss the playoffs, they're in the lottery, and there's a chance that pick jumps up into the top 4. If it jumps up into the top 4, the Warriors keep it. In all other scenarios, the Blazers keep it. But if it lands in the top 4, the Warriors keep it. If the Warriors keep it this year, it rolls to 2025, and it's only top 1 protected in 2025. It's also known as capture the flag protected in 2025. Go Tar Heels still. But I think I'll talk about whether 2024 or 2025 is better in a second. But just draft pick in 2024, assuming that you don't get the small chances for things to pop up. Right now, as it stands, the Warriors pick has a 93% chance of being 13th. Basically, the Blazers are going to get the 13th pick in the draft. But if Houston were to leapfrog them, pass them in the standings, and the Warriors slip to 11th and out of the play-in, then it would go to an 86% chance of being 12. So you have a way higher chance of picking 12th and 13th. That's just better because the higher up you are on the board, the more of your own decisions you have to make, and other people don't get to make decisions before you. That has value. It has value as a trade chip. 12 is better than 13 in the draft. I think this is a fairly simple concept to understand. The way the draft lottery works is that the lottery is only for the first 4 spots. So it's like if you finish, regardless of the Warriors are 13th or 12th or whatever in the lottery, they can only finish as low as 12 or as low as 13 and then top 4. But it's a big jump. From where the Golden State stands now, it's a 4.8% chance to land in the top 4. But if they miss the playoffs, if they do not make the play-in round and they're just out and they're in the lottery and there's no if they make the play-in and lose, they'd still be in the lottery. But the chances that they make, first of all, it's the odds change, and second of all, it's like I don't really think that if you're rooting for them to end up with a draft pick, putting Steph Curry in 2 single elimination games, and there could be some shenanigans. He's really good at basketball. He could have single elimination game shenanigans to get the playoffs, and you make the playoffs, you're not in the lottery, etc. But assuming that it stays like it is now, or it stays in the sort of same math range it is now. The Warriors right now, 4.8% chance to jump into the top 4. If they were to get leapfrogged by Houston, and Houston claims that last play-in spot, and the Warriors are just at home, they play no postseason basketball whatsoever, and they finish in the 11th in the West, 7.2% chance of getting into the top 4. It's like, that's like a 75% increase in odds. We're talking small percentages, but the difference in 4.8 and 7.2 is not nothing. That is meaningful. The Warriors have an easier schedule to close this thing out. They play New Orleans, Dallas twice, Oklahoma, Minnesota, but they also play the Spurs. They play the Hornets. They play the Blazers, famously not good. Huge game for the Blazers to win, though, and the Utah Jazz twice. Houston has a tougher schedule. OKC, they play Minnesota. The Warriors don't play Minnesota. They play Miami. I have it written down wrong in my notes. Houston plays OKC, Minnesota, the Clippers, Dallas twice, Orlando, and Miami. And they have 3 of we'll call them easy games with respect against the Blazers and then twice against the Jazz. It matters. You just want the Blazers to have better draft odds. I don't know. They've been losing on purpose for parts of 3 seasons pretty dang aggressively. If you're rooting for them to get out of the hole, the way you get out of the hole is to have the Warriors stink. I mean, that's what you need. You need them to stink. On the 2024-2025 thing, I think the draft is generally regarded as better, much stronger, the draft class in 2025 than 2024. In the past, I think it was hard for me to read whether I thought the Warriors were going to be bad again in 2025. As we get further along, I'm fairly certain the Warriors will be a different looking team next year. I bet they'll make some structural moves, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, whatever it might be. We'll see. I think that they are unlikely to jump into being one of the very, very good teams again, just because of how expensive the roster is and the age of their core. They're creative. They can do they've made moves to retool in the past. They've gotten the luck of a cap spike to add Kevin Durant, etc., and then bullied Kevin Durant into making it a sign and trade, and that opened up things up. They've made it happen in the past, right? So I don't think that their graph is guaranteed to be pointing down in 2025, but I would feel more comfortable if you're the Blazers about not having to pick so many picks in 2024, having a future pick to trade that you could dangle over people and say, hey, look how much the Warriors stink, look how good this 2025 pick, or you just hold on to it and they're bad. I kind of think it would be better for the Blazers if the Warriors were to magically jump into the top 4, take Shai and try to make it happen, and the Blazers get a 2025 pick that's top 1 protected. I think that's better. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's where I am as of 10:30 p.m. on March 25th. I reserve the right to totally change my mind upwards of 7 times. So between now and June of 2025. I guess the draft lottery's in May of 2025. We'll call it April. Call it end of the season. But this is a big loss for the Blazers. It feels bad to say that, but I do think the implications of this, and if you're watching the Warriors, go Pelicans, go Mavs twice, go Magic, go Heats, Victor Wembanyama, go off, King. The Hornets, go off, Bugs. The Jazz twice. The Jazz play Houston twice and the Warriors twice, and those teams play each other. The Warriors and the Rockets have one game left against each other. Massively important game for Houston. They're beat up. They've got a bunch of injuries. Jalen Green's rolling. It's the power of the G League Ignite. It really, it's a wonderful program that only produces stars. So you got to root for it to keep on rolling. I don't want to do like a million check-ins about like what's going on with the Warriors, but we're going to do some check-ins about kind of where that pick is and what it is, because this matters. This matters to the Blazers. Much higher odds at getting 12, increased odds at getting a 2025 pick as opposed to a 2024 pick, and just like the Schadenfreude of seeing a dynasty crumble. It's the pick they traded to Memphis in order to get off of Andre Iguodala's contract. That pick was eventually traded to get Marcus Smart, and then that pick was traded in the Drew Holiday trade back to the Blazers. So it's like it's the original rich folks having to move money around, and the Blazers benefited. I don't know. Listen. 12 is better than 13. Root for losses from multiple teams. All right, in the second segment, let's talk all about Shaedon Sharpe, who's getting closer to a return. Join me in that second segment, won't you? First, though, let's talk Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player entry, and it's just you versus the stat projections set by Prize Picks. And right now, it's demon time over at Prize Picks, where you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Demons and Goblins, the newest and most exciting way to play over there at Prize Picks. Squares are marked with red demons, green goblins. You get different payouts for those squares, and you can win up to 100 times your money with just as little as 4 correct picks. I've played Prize Picks here and there in my time. I mostly play during the NBA season because I'm most comfortable with. You can make your selections in like 60 seconds. It's a fun little way to get involved in your NBA enjoyment. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. They're going to match you dollar for dollar up to $100 if you go to prizepicks.com and use that promo code LockedOnNBA. That's Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. The Blazers gave us some good news over the weekend. In fact, I recorded the podcast early on a Sunday morning, as I want to do. I either record it early Sunday or late Sunday, very rarely during the daylight, the day hours. It was a morning record for me, a morning record for your boy. By the evening time, the news had come out that Shaedon Sharpe has officially been assigned to the Rip City remix as he's going to ramp up his conditioning. The nature of the press release does not suggest to me that Shaedon Sharpe's going to be playing in any Rip City remix games. He's not going to play in the G League games. First of all, they're trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to make the playoffs in their inaugural season. They got 2 left, and it's a back-to-back. It's just not a good. It's not like throw Shaedon Sharpe into the mix. He would probably kill in the G League, but he's just going to practice. They did this with Scoot earlier this year, where they sent him down for like an afternoon to kind of get right after while he was injured. Just run around and have actual practice, play with professionals, play. Get your wind. You can't really simulate playing a true NBA game, but like, you can compete against professionals. That's why you have a G League team. It's why they have it in-house. The G League team practices at the practice facility. So like he doesn't have to go anywhere. You just assign him to the G League team, and he walks out of the locker room out onto the practice court. And he won't, he's not in the first part of the Blazers road trip. The Blazers are kicking off a 15-day road trip through Houston, Florida, and then back up through Miami, Orlando, and back up through Charlotte, DC, and Boston before coming home. They said on the Blazers broadcast tonight, it's 18 flight hours, 18 hours in the air during a 2-week trip. That's too many. That's a lot of traveling. But Sharpe, I assume, will eventually join up with them. But he's going to do some conditioning with the remix, and this is great news. Sharpe has been out since, he left the game early against OKC when the Blazers were losing by 60 on January 11th. He checked out early when he was hurt, but he had been dealing on and off with this abductor strain since December. It initially showed up as abductor strain. They eventually called it a lower abdominal injury for the surgery, and were careful about changing the language there from like your groin to an area near your groin. I don't know where your lower abdomen is. I'm just a podcaster, but like, I bet it's not far away from your groin. I don't know really what your abductor, where that is relative to lower abdomen and all those things. But to me, probably the same injury, but the distinction that the Blazers made. So he hasn't played in a game since January 11th. He had surgery on February 9th, and it was expected that he would be reevaluated in about 6 weeks. Here we are, more in the 8-week range later, 7 weeks later, and he's getting back on the court. This is hugely important. One, the whole point of this season was to figure out what you had, and the most frustrating part of this season is the Blazers don't really know what they have. What do they have? Dalano Banton. He shoots a lot. DeAndre Ayton had a nice stretch. It's not really enough games to kind of build the ship out of, but it's like he had a nice stretch, or he looked good. Damani Kamara is a good defensive player. Jabari Walker rebounds. It's like you just haven't seen enough of your parts together. Your top guys have only really played 4 games together. Scoot and Ants, JG and DA, all of them, and Malcolm Brogdon. All of that those 6 guys have only appeared in 4 games healthy together all season long. You just don't know what you have. In fact, Shaedon Sharpe, the whole point of this season for me was to have Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderon play together, see the backcourt of the future as much as you possibly could, and then assess what you have. Like, if it stinks, it stinks, but okay, why does it stink? What else would they need around him? How do they play together? Can Shaedon Sharpe be a menace off the ball, or does he kind of need the ball in his hands because it gets him in a better sort of attack mode? Can you ramp up his aggressiveness as an off-ball player? Can he play off Scoot really well? Does Scoot end up throwing him 1,000 lobs and it's the most fun 22-win season possibly imaginable? They lose 60 times, but there's so many fun highlights that you just can forget some of the struggles. Is like, why doesn't the pairing work? How does it not work? How does it work? What, negatives, positives, everything you could possibly learn. We just don't know. In 22 games together, Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderon have played 322 total minutes on the court together, according to NBA.com. Shaedon Sharpe's played about 1,100 minutes this year. He's rocking about 900 minutes of court time without Scoot. That's fine. I think at the beginning of the year, like, Scoot was a mess. Like, he was just really, really, really struggling. So they have Malcolm Brogdon, they had Anthony Simon. So it's like, okay, let's reduce his role. Let's make it simpler. Let's let him play with one of the shooters, like the veteran shooters types. Let's get him on the court with Malcolm, because Malcolm can play off the ball and has been a really good off the ball player. And Malcolm can, like, say, give me the ball, but you're not running it right type of offense stuff. And kind of, to some extent, but not in the same way, because even though he's probably, like, statistically a better off-ball player, he's, like, worse at it with my eyeballs. It made sense at the beginning of the year to not just have it just be Scoot and Sharpe and Scoot and Sharpe and Scoot and Sharpe. But we've reached the time of the season, and particularly post All-Star break and heading into the All-Star break, when it's just like, who cares? Let them fail. I think it's fine to not do that in November and December, to build guys' confidence, to build their skill sets, to have them understand their role and have them understand what they're doing. But then you get to a certain point where it's like, just roll the ball out and let them figure it out. You're already going to be bad. It doesn't matter. I don't think the Blazers are afraid of losing, to be clear, but they've just been robbed of that by injuries. Like, for instance, Shaedon Sharpe has played 570 minutes next to DeAndre Ayton in 22 games. It's just like the pairings never lined up for him to play with Scoot. I don't know that he can come back and play, I don't want him to come back and play way too many minutes and have them jeopardize things. And I don't know enough about health if that's even an option, right? Like, I don't know enough about the surgery and recovery and stuff like that, but I assume they'll be relatively conservative with his minutes and his playing time. But man, do I want to see him play together a bunch more. I don't know how much a bunch is going to be. Like, they don't have that many games left, right? Like, that's kind of the nature of it when you're this deep into the season. But, like, we're at what? That's 60, 62, 72 games left, 10 games remaining in the season. It's like, let's assume Shaedon Sharpe plays 7 of the final 10, 6, 5. Let's call it 5 of the final 10. I think you can squeeze 20 minutes a night of him and Scoot next to each other in those 5 games, where you would end up with 100 more minutes of a sample size. It's not perfect. It's still going to be imperfect, but it's what they need. It's just absolutely what they need. They got it. That's and like beyond the sort of like data collection pragmatic approach, like when Sharpe was cooking in December, it was the most fun part of the season. That was like the 5-game stretch where he had 25 or more in 5 straight games. Like, this dude's so fun to watch, and you're seeing the future, and that was what this whole year was supposed to be about. And some of it is like Scoot has struggled so much that it hasn't been as sort of that like true big smile fun. You like, if you're a true believer, you're like, you know what? He's getting a little bit better at decelerating. It's like what I said on the show yesterday, but the like true, like, okay, I can see it, and I don't have to like, make it up or squint or like project 4 years and 100 games into the future, or whatever, or 4 months and 100 games into the future. It's like, okay, he was cooking, and that was the most fun part of the season. And he just like, you as a Blazer fan, and especially if you're listening to this podcast at this part of the year, it's like, you deserve some good stuff. And Shaedon Sharpe getting back on the court, it's good stuff. That is something to look forward to. We don't have an update. We just like, he'll be there. I assume he'll practice a handful of times this week with maybe not a handful, 3 times, a bushel full of times with the remix, and then he'll eventually join the Blazers. I assume he'll join them on the road at some point, because when they get back from the road, they only have 2 more games. So I assume he'll, maybe he'll get lucky. They play Friday in Miami and they got a weekend off. Maybe he'll get to meet him in Miami and have a little bit of fun. Good weather. That's what I'm talking about. And hopefully we'll see him on the court soon. Okay, let's talk about the game itself and Scoot Henderon and Dalano Banton and some media narratives that I've seen out there that are just wrong about what's going on with the Blazers right now. Let's talk about all of that to close the show. But first, let me tell you that this next segment is brought to us by BetterHelp. Therapy can be incredibly valuable if you're going through an acute traumatic event. If you're having a major trauma in your life, talking to a therapist can be incredibly valuable, but it can also just be what you need to get through the challenges of everyday life. Think of it like routine maintenance for your car. You take care of your car so it runs better. You should take care of yourself so you can run the best version of yourself. Talking to a therapist, an impartial third-party observer, can help you develop the tools that you need to be your best self, or at least understand the tools that you need to work on to get towards your best self. So if you are thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Just visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. You'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. We rarely in this show bury the fastest recap in the end, but we're at that part of the year where the fact that the Blazers lost 110-92 to the Golden State Warriors. They beat the Warriors. This was a win against the Warriors. The fact that they lost 110-92 to the Rockets, that's the third most important thing in the show today. I don't feel guilty about that at all. But let's do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose 110-92. They actually were they were in it early. They were up early, up 9 in the first quarter, down 28-25 after 1, though. Come back with a big old second quarter to take a 51-47 lead. They outscored the Rockets 26-19 in the second quarter. Second quarter was gross. It was gross. The Blazers shoot 1 of 7 from 3 and score 26 points. The Rockets shoot 1 of 10 from 3 and score 19 points. The Rockets took 7 more field goal attempts than the Blazers in the second quarter. They just couldn't score. Scoot picked up 3 fouls in about 90 seconds in the second quarter, and he had to sit and end up leading to a disjointed game. But then the Blazers come out of halftime, and tell me if you've heard this before. They come out of halftime. They have a nice little couple possessions, and then the other team makes a run, and then the game is over because they're not coming back from down double digits. Rockets lead by as many as 12 in the quarter, take an 80-71 lead into the fourth, and the Blazers just never really challenged in the fourth quarter. Never had a lead, trailed by as many as 20, and go on to lose 90-110. That's your fastest recap in the West. Jalen Green. Big loud night, not hyper efficient, but a big loud night. 27, some highlight dunks. Jock Landale got loose in the first quarter, finished with 17 and 9, 15 from Fred VanVleet. Dylan Brooks, hilarious game, 11 points on 2 of 13 shooting, 0 of 8 from 3. Part of me really wants, I don't think I really want this because I find Dylan Brooks to be a little bit annoying, but Toumani Camara to become Dylan Brooks, where sure, he has some stinker offensive nights, but he's so darn good at defense that he is imminently playable on good teams. It's just maybe Toumani has a little more self-awareness not to like totally shoot teams out of games like Dylan can, but Brooks is so good on offense or so good on defense that the nights when he stinks on offense don't even matter that much. I thought Amen Thompson was really good. He finished with 12 and 9, and he's a good young player. On the Blazers side, Dalano Banton led the way with 28, 11, and 5. In the second quarter, when everyone was being just stinky, Dalano Banton had 10, 6, and 4. 10 points, 6 boards, and 4 assists in the second quarter. He had 10, 6, and 4. The Rockets scored 19 points. Like, he was as productive as the entire team. He had 10 points and 4 assists. Like, Dalano Banton created more offense in the second quarter than the Rockets as a whole did. Scoot finished with 5 points, 4 assists, 3 boards. The foul trouble just took him out of the game in that second quarter. The Blazers played this game without anyone who can rent a car. They had nobody who could rent a car in this game. No Anthony Simons, who was he had that ankle injury. He was listed as questionable on the first injury report that came out Sunday, which I thought was a surprise. And then he was ruled out Monday afternoon before they even got to the arena on that early injury report. He was ruled out. No Jeremy Grant, no Matisse Thybulle, no DeAndre Ayton. So the Blazers went back to that starting rookie group. More on that in a second. Let's talk Scoot and Dalano real quick. I thought Scoot was cooking in the first quarter. I thought he was really good. He was getting downhill. He was being smart with his drives, not getting caught and driving right into someone's chest. He had one of my favorite moves where he tacked really hard, like he was going to make a left-handed layup, and then put on the brakes and got back to his right hand. He can't finish, and he won't finish with his left hand, so being creative and particularly using his speed to then weaponize slowing down, weaponize school zone, weaponize slowing down to that school zone speed, like, hey, I'm going to drive 100 miles an hour like I'm on the freeway, and then whoop, I'm going to drive 18 miles an hour, and I'm going to beat you. Jock Landale jumped. He gets an easy right-hand layup. So great move. It's a great move. Then it just a really disjointed 3 fouls in a minute 34 in the second quarter, and he just never got back, and I thought he struggled. He finished 1 of 5 from 3. A couple of those were late in the game, just kind of like bad desperation. We're getting blown out threes. But even then, 6 of 14 from the floor. Let's take away the 2 that I didn't like. He's 6 of 12 from the floor, 1 of 3 from 3. That's not exactly how stats work, but I think your eyeballs can believe it when you see it. I just thought he was bad in the second half after a really nice start, and some of that had to be foul trouble. He didn't get to the paint as much in this game. He was better at getting into the paint in his last 2 outings. I don't think he played terribly, but I think he ended up taking 3 sort of like mid-range outside of the paint jumpers. Hit one of them. That was a nice little shot, but he's got to figure out, like, I don't think that's a terrible part of his arsenal, but I think he's been better attacking straight on, like that lower box below the foul line, but not the restricted area spot, floater and pull up jumpers from there than he has been on the wings. And he shot a bunch of right wing threes and clanged them. Dalano Banton is such an interesting character. Like, obviously, if you've listened to the show, if you're everyday or shout out to my everydayers, you know that I kind of am like predisposed to like ball hogs and tall point guards. And Dalano Banton's both. He shoots a lot, and he's a weird player with weird skill sets. He didn't shoot particularly well from this game from 3, 2 of 9. And because Scoots got hurt, he just got the ball in his hands. He played great when Scoot got hurt with foul trouble. Side note, for the most part, Chauncey Billups is pretty conservative with foul trouble. He had to take Scoot out for a learning experience. You can't foul that many times in a short period of time, but usually Chauncey lets guys play with fouls, and I like that about him. Dalano is just like, the games that he's been good, he just gets so much of the rock. Like, he just gets so much time on the ball and so much just like freelancing opportunities to get shots up and make decisions and do those things. And I don't know how that scales. Can Dalano Banton be good in a way reduced role, or do the best version we always are going to see of him is when Dalano Banton gets the keys to the limo and he's driving the whole gang around? Because probably on the next version of the Blazers can't give him the keys to the limo. He's going to have to be like it's not even on ball, off ball. It's just like the volume of opportunities. When he's been good, he's had heavy volume games to play through bad shots, play through bad decisions, play through bricks from three, and then like do what he does. The Blazers are playing a group where he kind of needs to dribble and attack. Like, that's not my complaint. I think he played well in this game. I just think like pushing it forward, thinking about it forward, it's like, what does Banton do if he's not with a smaller slice of the pie? And can he be highly effective with a smaller slice of the pie? When he gets to eat half the pie, he's had some big nights. And I think this was a good night for him. He's an intriguing player, albeit one with some warts. Okay, real quick, I'm going to push back against a national media thing. The Blazers starting rookies has like, it is coming up in the sort of NBA zeitgeist. I read it in Tom Ziller's newsletter, which I love. I would subscribe to it. I love the Good Morning It's Basketball newsletter. But it's like, oh, they're starting rookies. This team's tanking. Look at the freaking team that they have. Like, the injury report is the part where you might circle and say, hey, is this tanking? Are these injuries real? Like, but that's a conversation for another day and another time. And I have said before, and I'll say it again now, I think all of these injuries are, I don't know, real to some extent. They're real injuries. But like, they start Chris Murray, Tumani Kamara, Duop Reith, Ryan Rupert, and Henderson. Ryan Rupert hit 3 threes. Way to go. But it's like, okay, well, if they don't start the rookies, they're going to start Moses Brown, who's worse than Duop Reith. They're going to start Dalano Banton, who's just like, they need him to be a guy who dribbles off the bench. They're going to start Jabari Walker, who's a second-year guy. They're going to start Ashton Higgins, who's a freaking rookie 10-day guy or a two-way guy who started on a 10-day. They're going to start Justin Minaya, who technically played last year at the end of the season, but is a two-way player. Like, the only player who didn't play tonight, who got a DNP-CD, was Ibubaji. They can't play older people. They don't have the opportunity. So like the idea that they're rolling out this rookie lineup in order to lose on purpose, who else would they play? Who else would they play? The question is, they're like, the criticism should be like, we never know the way the Portland Trail Blazers operate. We never know the validity of injuries after the All-Star break. We have no idea. Because it's not like they're going to, you need someone as brave as Yusuf Nurkic to be like, it was fake, as opposed to like, what is the incentive that anyone else would do that? We're not going to get that disclosure. We can only guess at it. And that doesn't do anyone any good. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the team. It's probably not good for your psyche. It's nonsense. But the nonsense though, is that we've like reached this point with the team after 3 years of this, where it's like, they're hurt. I guess I trust them. And then, the sort of outsiders listening to the pod, who don't listen to the podcast and looking in, are like, oh, they're starting rookies. They're losing on purpose. You want them to start Moses Brown? You want to start veteran Moses Brown? Okay. Veteran Moses Brown, get in there. Get in there, Big Mo. Okay. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll do more of these 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends about the podcast. Talk to you soon.